Jade X Jackson interview. Okay, what got you into activism?
Well, at birth, I was left in the hospital due to racism. 1965, November 11th, I was born biracial parents. My maternal family were Caucasian, and they did not want an African-American, a nigger, in the family. So I went through 5 foster homes, ended up being adopted by an African-American family. I was picked on due to skin tone. In 1974 school year, attempted busing started. At that time, I got caught in the middle of Caucasians and African Americans. Throughout my life, I've always faced oppression, whether it be gender, whether it's color, skin tone, assortment of reasons. My last memory, or one of my most treasured memories, was sitting on the floor at my last foster family's house, watching Dr. Martin Luther King lead the marches, and also the news of his assassination really touched my heart. So again, from my first breath to my last, I am a fighter for justice and equality for all people.
So who are some of your activist heroes? You mentioned Dr. King.
Right, and that's a great question. Back in the 60s, when I look at Rosa Parks, who was the mother of the Civil Rights Movement, I look at Dr. King, as I mentioned, Malcolm X, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and other leaders. All of that was a collective action. When I look at today, I look at John Lewis. I look at individuals like that. They touch my heart because, again, these are people who are willing to make sacrifices for the good of all mankind. So those are my heroes.
Excellent. What would you say would be the most important element of activism? What goes into a successful campaign?
Well, first of all, you have to have that compassion. It has to mean something to you. You can often get people who want to grandstand and speak or run in front of a microphone or cameras or things of that nature. But if their heart is not in it, and if they've not had some type of harm or hurt done to them, in my honest opinion, I don't think they could really understand what it means to be oppressed if they've not faced oppression. I also say that it's easy to speak, it's easy to rally, to march and things to do that. Sure, it takes work, but what other sacrifices? A true activist or a true leader is willing to take sacrifices for the good of all mankind.
Okay. And, when did you discover your role in activism? Was it when you were a young kid? You said about watching Martin Luther King on television. Is that when you discovered that was something that you might want to do?
I was indoctrinated into the process. As I mentioned, watching Dr. King and listening to his speeches on the radio were very instrumental. In the Detroit public schools, they taught us, and I have a fond memory of this during elementary school, Atkinson Elementary School, where they taught us every morning we had to stand up and say, we are somebody proud, we are somebody special, we're here. Just the education. I've always loved people. I've always disliked when other people tried to harm other people. So throughout my life, it was just, as I look back on my life, I should say, it was just a big puzzle piece, a big puzzle where each set of oppression or other issues that I had were just puzzle pieces to this bigger frame, this bigger picture. I do have to give honor to my adopted mother, she was a Detroit teacher, a union member and leader, and she would be on the strikes lines. She also formed the Shield Street Block Club. She was a community leader. So I learned a lot of those deep steps of standing up for what's right through my mother, my adopted mother as well.
Okay, excellent. And what did you take away from your recent arrest?
Okay, so I was recently arrested on May 30th. Up in Raleigh with Dr. Barber and NAACP. It was a movement led by the doctors and by clergy members. It was very educational. First of all, you have to have a great plan. So what the NAACP did was they had their attorneys teach a quick tutorial of what to expect from the beginning to end to after the release of jail, including the trials that we have to go through. Learned that it's not as scary as some people think. They think that if you get arrested, it's all end all. A sit-in is normally, when you're arrested for sit-in, is normally a second-degree trespassing, which is the lowest misdemeanor crime that you can have with trespassing, and oftentimes that gets thrown out either by doing community service or, like in my February arrest, I did a weekend class. So the minimum or the maximum for a second-degree trespassing, maximum penalty would be 20 days, and that's often not going to happen, especially on the first 1, 2, or 3 times of being arrested. So it's not as scary as most people make it out to be. Now, I will say it does get kind of cold sitting in the cells. It gets kind of boring waiting. It's a hurry up and wait process while they process it and they let you out. But again, it's something that people have done in the past, and I do believe that you have to take a stance in order to win. You do have to sacrifice something to win equality for all people.
What would you say would be the levels of activism? Front line, I think of with you going to jail, but as you were saying about people being afraid to get involved, what would you say would be some of the other levels in terms of support, so that people can understand a little bit that there are different levels of activism?
Great question, because there's always roles for people. You would have people to do the support work, which is kind of behind the scenes, and what that is maybe organizing a rally, filing police permit requests, reaching out to media, recruiting people to be involved, networking with other organizations. So those are kind of behind the scenes people. You have people who are media people. They like to be in front of cameras and they like to speak. You may have people who are just normal, great speakers who just want to be in front of the microphone. You have leaders. Leaders are ones that lead with all passion, integrity, willing to take a risk, willing to take a sacrifice for the good of all mankind. So again, you do have the leaders. You have your organizational leaders, your coalition, and then obviously my leader is my God, my Father in heaven, God. That's the organizational structure for me.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about Efficacy School. That was part of the arrest, was it? I'm really interested in that experience.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience, actually. So in February 15th of this year, 2017, I did a sit-in against Wendy's, who is known as a red chain restaurant. Wendy's donated $235,000 to Donald Trump and the Republican Party for their hateful agenda. I did a sit-in at the North Lake Wendy's. As part of my punishment, or agreement, I should say, to have the case dismissed, I had to take a behavior course. One of the courses I saw was Absolute Advocacy, which drew an interest. It was a very good course. It was a 12-hour course that I had to take, and the course basically, what I learned from the course was, hey, you have a very good plan before you act. You sit down, you write that plan out, you discuss it and share with other people. You get other people prepared to take whatever action you want to take. Civil disobedience was in my case. The advocacy also made you think subconsciously, as far as thinking what are the rewards and the risks that you can take. And you weigh them out. Is that worth doing it? If you decide to do it, how far do you take it? What's your backup plan? That's one of the things that I felt to express during the February 15th sit-in. I didn't necessarily have a backup plan. Like in the example here is with the NAACP, the May 30th, they did have a backup plan, and like I said, they had a complete tutorial of what to expect and things to go through. So the advocacy course was very good because it just gave you ideas for just general life. We break it down to financial issues or to, getting your life in order it's a plan. You have to have a well-prepared plan, and that's what the advocacy course taught.
Excellent. And it's advocacy?
Absolute advocacy.
Okay.
Yes.
And where do you see the movement going?
Well, I've strongly believed that God has chosen people. He has people moving, and as long as people are moving with Him as the head of the movement, we are going to win. It's going to be a long war. People say that they get tired. People are weary, whatever. But you have to understand, look back at the sacrifices that our forefathers had. You have to look back and see what is worth, anything that is worth getting, you have to fight for. Okay? So in my opinion, it's going to be a long war, but I'm 100% convinced that God is going to win this victory. He is merely using us as His vessels to win love over hate. And I do feel that within the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to have a much better world than what we have now.
Excellent. Last final question. Why did you help found the coalition?
I don't know. No. What are the reasons? We have so many silos out there, so many different people or organizations working at different venues. They're working on the same things, but they're not connected. So what we wanted to do with the Coalition of United Progressives-CharMeck was be that hub to connect organization A to organizational Z, all the way through the chain, promote each other's ideas, and also center on the same issues that we all focus on. However, we want to do it as one mass movement, not only in the city of Charlotte, not only in the state of North Carolina, but also throughout the country. So again, the coalition's main purpose is to organize, to educate, and to activate as one mass movement.
Excellent. Thank you so very much.
It was an honor, and thank you.